This morning, we are shining a light on domestic violence, particularly what it looks like when it shows up in the workplace.
1 in 3 workers will experience domestic violence in their lifetime, and it doesn't stop at home. It follows them into brainstorms and break rooms, onto shop floors and shift rotations. Let's learn to spot the signs so we can address the problem.
That is a clip from the ReferHer campaign, a new campaign aimed at educating Canadian employers on what they can and legally should be doing to support employees. Joining us this morning to talk this through is the person front and center in that ad, filmmaker Sarain Fox, as well as Anuradha Dugal, Executive Director of Women's Shelters Canada, who's joining us from Montreal this morning. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Sarain, yeah, my pleasure. I'll start with you, Sarain. We've had you on the show a handful of times, but not in this capacity. So tell me a little bit about your role in this campaign and what made you say yes to this project.
Oh my goodness, when I heard about this campaign and how many people were lending their services, their time, their talent, I knew that I wanted to be a part of it. I'm also a girl's girl, and growing up, I think there's so many women, including myself, who were touched by domestic violence. And I just think it's so important for the country to have tools to see this and to know what to do next. So it's very close to my heart.
Anuradha, what is the legal obligation of Canadian employers when it comes to supporting an employee experiencing domestic violence? Because I think some people might be surprised to learn there is an obligation there.
There is. There are both obligations at the federal level for those kinds of businesses that are regulated by the federal government, so ports and banks and transport companies. And there are domestic, at the provincial level, there are domestic violence legislation. So many workplaces are governed by these work requirements through occupational health and safety. They may have to have a policy on domestic violence. They usually have to post that publicly in the spaces so that anybody can look at it. There are domestic violence leaves, paid and unpaid. But of course, across the country, because provinces organize that according to their own internal work condition legislation, it's different from place to place. But it might be 5 days paid leave. It might be some unpaid leave. It might be up to 15 weeks unpaid leave without any detriment to your work conditions.
Anuradha, how do you recognize signs that someone you work with could be experiencing domestic violence? Because I know there's no one size fits all when it comes to this. Can you share some of the signs that we can look for?
So you're absolutely right. There's no one size fits all. Survivors all have different experiences, and we need to be able to understand that and recognize it. It might be something that suddenly happens, or something that has gradually come on over time. Very often, as we say in that wonderful PSA that Sarain helped us with, it appears to be poor performance. So absenteeism, turning up late, leaving early, being distracted at work, not being able to finish projects on time, or even just feeling that sort of sense that somebody has changed their behavior and no longer wants to socialize. They're more isolated than they were before. All of those things could be signs of domestic violence. They could be signs of something else. And honestly, asking an employee or a colleague what's going on when their behavior changes is important no matter what the root cause is, but finding out it's domestic violence is essential if that is the case.
Sarain, it's one thing to see all those signs and to recognize it. It is a whole other thing to bring it up, especially at work. And it can feel incredibly challenging to know how to start those conversations. So how do we bring this up in the workplace? What recommendations are there?
You know, I'm a storyteller, and I think so often we feel like we are alone. We feel like we are alone in our stories and our circumstances. And we find that when we're able to be vulnerable and to share or to ask someone how they are, then it creates a space where we can actually be there for one another and not be so isolated and alone. Because the truth is, so many women are experiencing this or have experienced this. So when we start talking about these things, when we start being willing to notice our neighbors, our community, our colleagues, then we can create safer spaces for all of us. But we have to be brave enough to reach out. And for those who are in those spaces, I think maybe they're watching this and they had no idea that there were resources for them, that there was someone that they could go to, that they could talk to. And I want everyone to know that there's always someone that you can find to share your story, and you are never alone.
I so appreciate what you said there, Sarain, being willing to notice. I think that's a huge key. Thank you to you both, Sarain and Anuradha. We really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
If you want to learn more about the Refer Her campaign, you can visit ReferHer.ca. And if you or someone you know is experiencing violence, visit sheltersafe.ca to find your closest women's shelter and 24/7 help.